What is up, guys? Welcome back to the Lumsden Motorsports Garage. I'm Wade Lumsden, and we're doing some more on the Modified, trying to get ready for the Halloween race. If you guys watched the last video, we found a little bit of issues with the pull bar, so gonna take a look at that and some other stuff that I managed to find. So let's get to work. Alrighty, guys, so if you remember from the last video, I found that there was this huge gap of space in my pull bar, and here's my pull bar. I pulled it out, but there was, when it was sitting in the car, in between this biscuit here and this mount point here, right in here, there was a gap. There was a gap of about, about like that, about that size. I've already pulled, of course, pulled the bar out, and then all I did was suck this thing back down to where it was making contact. So you can see originally when this was all tight, this was actually butted up all the way up against the jam nut here, and that's about the space that I had to tighten up this whole pull bar. So what this is basically like a big long bolt right here that runs through these biscuits, slides through this area right in here, the grease fitting to help keep that all greased up, and then connects here. So that allows this to have a, pulling, stretching kind of motion. So let's talk about my decisions. There is a lot of black magic and voodoo, dark arts going on with pull bar stuff. Honestly, there's not, but a lot of people would have you believe that there is a lot of black magic and voodoo when it comes to pull bars. Basically, what you're doing is you're controlling, this is the piece, okay? Number one, setting in the car, this is what determines your pinion angle, right? The length from mounting point on the rear end and mounting point on the chassis. Actually, it's backwards for me. This is the point. This is the side I put on the rear end. This is the side I put over on the chassis due to clearance because of how wide that is. So first off, this sets your pinion angle on a 4-bar car. You get the length of where you need your pinion, and that's what you do. But the other thing that it does is it controls, it's basically your traction control device. We could probably do an in-depth video on this if you really want to, but to sum it up in easy terms, your engine spins really, really fast, right? And then that translates through your transmission, then through your driveline to your rear end. And from your rear end, out to your tires, and tires down to the racetrack. So spinning really, 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 really fast, okay? And when it gets out to your tires, it turns into a torque. It turns into a, around torque that goes around the tire, right? And what the pull bar does is it's basically your traction control device that helps limit or helps almost regulate how much traction is going to go to the tires, right? So if the rear end itself stayed absolutely solid, and all of that torque went out to the tire, and you just put all that power directly to the tire, you're going to spin the tires. But if you have something like a shocking device, right, that absorbs some of that, right, absorbs some of that that torque, and then slowly allows it to transfer to the tire, instead of, just like launching your car at the line, off the street or whatever. If you get on the gas super hard, super fast, and you feed it a whole lot, it's gonna chirp the tires and you're losing traction. But if you feed it to it a little bit, you'll keep traction and zoom off. Now, our goal in the race car is to give it as much traction as the racetrack and the tire will take, as fast as it will take it, without losing that traction. And that's how you're getting that bite and you're moving forward. So in the end, that pull bar is basically your traction device or your timing device for how power is sent from the engine through the rear end, through the transmission rear end, and down to the tires, and translates from really controls the relationship of that power between the racetrack and the tire. So I hope that makes sense. We could go into a whole lot more detail on it. There's a lot of different opinions on, centering it on the rear end, centering it on the chassis, moving it left to right on rear end and chassis, angle that it's mounted, length that it's mounted. I think if you asked anybody, they would give you different opinions, all on pull bar stuff. So I'll give you, when I talk about pull bar stuff, I'll give you the school of thought that I have been following, that I was kind of taught, and that's been working for me. But keeping all of that in mind, let's get back to my pull bar. So I had to, almost dropped the camera. I had to tighten this up. Okay, so these biscuits are basically, they're basically a replacement for a spring. That's basically what they are. So you can preload them by tightening up this bolt. It puts more preload on here, which just like loading up your coilover, right, on your rear end. It puts a certain amount of load into this, so you're starting at a certain point to try to finish at a certain point. Now, part of the goal of this is to limit how much pinion angle change you get. So if this was like super loose, or even if these were gone, right, and this was allowed to compress all the way here and use all of this travel, you would be getting a huge swing at the top of your rear end, allowing for a drastic pinion angle change. You don't want that. So this helps control your pinion angle change as well, and how fast that happens, which translates into traction and stuff. So what I did here is I kind of just sucked everything up and preloaded everything. That is not what I would suggest anybody do. To be completely honest, what I should be doing is replacing my biscuits, because biscuits wear out a whole lot faster than springs and stuff. But it's the last race of the year. I just can't bring myself to put brand new biscuits on it for the very last race of the year, when I know everything's about to come apart and get freshened back up anyways. So it is what it is. But what I did notice here, this is naturally supposed to have a preload. Talk to your chassis manufacturer or your maker of your pull bar on how to preload your pull bar. But I measured a new pull bar that I have from here to here, and it measures out the same. But when I measured the distance that's crushed here on this red puck, it's about 1/2 inch narrower now than what it was. So I mean, if I had to guess, that would tell me that this biscuit up here is pretty worn out. Now that is the push biscuit, I guess. So these three control the pull, the pulling this direction. So when I get on the gas and the rear end torques, that's what this is controlling, that, and that's slowing that down. But then when you get off the gas, it rolls back forward, right? That's where this one comes into place. And when it rolls back forward, it's putting forces back towards the front of the car, putting more forces towards your front tires. So we'll see what this does for me. I have an assumption, and I'm going to make a guess here, because the way weight and forces transfer forward as you're going into the corner and getting off the gas, off throttle, and how fast that happens, that's kind of what's being affected by that in particular biscuit. So I have a feeling that there's going to be a drastic change on my corner entry. But again, this is all kind of speculation for me. Baller on a budget. I just want to get through this last race, so again, just tightened it up and moving forward. The other thing that kind of stinks is I do not have a load force machine. So I know if you have like one of those cool Weir's load force machines or long acre ones or whatever, you can actually set the preload on your pull bar, and if I had one of those, I could shove it in there and set the preload. Granted, it wouldn't graph out the same with its travel after the biscuit's been worn and all that stuff. You wouldn't have the same linear graph after adding more preload, but at least your starting point would be the same, or maybe your end point would be the same depending on how you decided to set it up. But anyways, Black Magic Voodoo pull bar. I'm just, like I said, I'm just making it to where I can go race. I'm going to address that later. Yeah, there's also stuff, people have opinions about putting shocks up, what do they call that? A 910 shock or a top shock, to help control that speed, of it unloading and loading up. But yeah, that's kind of I don't know. That's my overview of the pull bar. What a pull bar does, it's basically your traction control device, other than your foot, right? That's the only legal form that we're allowed to use. So I just kind of wanted to show you guys that. I had already pulled it out and tightened it up, but it's there. It's almost ready to go back in the car, and we'll go from there. But the other thing I wanted to show you, and I think I need a flashlight to be able to show you this. I'm starting to really, give the car a good look over. And I found this. I don't know if you guys can see it or not. Try to here. But right here, around this, around here, this is all cracked out. I don't know how well you can see all that. Yeah, more chassis cracks. I guess I'm just super hard on equipment. Yeah. It's all right. It's all right. I'm going to continue to look over the chassis, see if I can find any more. I'm really hoping I don't, but we'll try to get that all welded up, prepped and repaired, probably gusseted. I know over the winter break, I'm going to end up having to strip everything off this car, the whole body, all that stuff, and literally cover the whole, go over the whole entire chassis inch by inch, looking for any cracks or other types of chassis damage for repair over the winter. Kind of stinks, but it is what it is, right? That's what happens. Things fatigue out, and especially when you race them a lot. I mean, this car, let's be honest, this is a 2018, and since I've owned this car, that's 18. So yeah, I've probably put more races on this car between 2018 and 2021 than a lot of guys do in a span of like 6 years, if we're being honest. So a good example, last year, over 67 races. So when you race a lot, things wear out. So I'm going to go through probably put some gussets in places, and if there's any other things that need to be repaired, we'll do that. So, but I just kind of wanted to show you guys what I had going on with the pull bar. I know I didn't really go into the science of the pull bar. I'll be 100% honest, that is not, since there's so many different theories out there, like there's some guys that'll tell you moving the bar left to right makes a huge difference. And when I'm talking about left to right, like I said earlier, more this direction or more that direction in the mounting scheme underneath here. It'll, in my view, the more you move it towards a specific tire, the more it enacts an effect on that tire, right? So on the rear end, if I move it towards the left, I'm going to get more traction effect on the left rear. If I move it to the right, I'm going to get more traction effect on the right rear, probably in the form of side bite, right? But then there's other theories, moving the front where you're mounting up there, on that end, not on the rear end, but on that end. If you move that to the right or left, some would say that if you point it towards the right front tire, when you get off the gas, all of that load, unload, it pushes it towards that right front tire, and it loads the right front faster and better, and gets it up on the right front. But then there's the argument of, okay, well, it's pointing towards the right front. As soon as I get on the gas, what does that do? That pulls load away from the right front, so it unloads the right rear tire. So, I mean, yeah, that was good on entry off throttle, but that hurts me through the rest of the corner on throttle. So, like I said, there's so many theories out there. I don't want to presume that I know it all about pull bars, or even that I'm doing the right things with pull bars, because I just stick to my book, and I do what works for me. Again, stick to your book, do what works for you. And if you have no idea, go to your chassis manufacturer or find that guy that helps you out and pick their brain. If I'm that guy for you, let me know, I guess. If you have questions, I will do my best to help you out as much as I possibly can. But again, this is what's working for me and my race program. I don't know if what I do is going to work for somebody else. So I just want you to take all that stuff with a grain of salt. But I definitely don't have a problem telling you how the thing works and how it's the traction control device and the concept and all of that stuff. And I think a lot of you guys, as long as you know the concept of what it does and how it's affecting the car, type of deal, you can make some pretty smart decisions for your race program. So I hope all that was helpful for you guys. Anyways, I got to get under here some more. I got a lot more work to do, a lot more inspection to do, as you can see here. And I told you guys I don't run a top shock, but this shock is, I told you last video, this shock up here is a dead shock. It's literally just a slider. Has no valving in it, has a hole drilled in the back. It just slides, okay? I'll go over it again right now. I do this because the last time I had a pull bar break, it allowed the rear end to spin. And when the rear end spun, because there was nothing holding this, when the rear end spun, I lost a drive line, I lost a J-bar, it came back and it smacked my, and put a hole in my fuel cell. It wrapped up all of my brake lines, it bent 4 bars, I lost 2 shocks. I mean, letting the rear end spin tears up a lot of stuff. So I put that dead shock there, to that way if something ever happens with my pull bar, I have something keeping it kind of in place without it just absolutely tearing stuff apart. So stuff to think about. I know we all work on our stuff and everything's always perfect all the time and nothing ever breaks, right? So sometimes you got to think about those little bit of extra safety things. If putting it's just like the driveline hoop, right? It's a little safety deal, just like that driveline hoop back there. If my yoke lets out, I got something to keep the driveline in the car, right? Like little things like that. If you can come up with something, it's always better, right? Anyways, hope that was a good explanation. Let me know if there's anything else you want me to explain. As far as the pull bar goes, I'm going to still try to get that stuff buttoned up back there. I know this was kind of just like I don't know, well, thank you for joining my TED Talk. That was just an overview. But questions, comments, concerns down below. Hey, if you got any cool resources on pull bars and that type of technology too, put that down below for me and anybody else who stumbles across this video, because we're here to learn from each other too, right? So yeah, I would love as much reading material as I can get on this stuff. I love to try to consume it. So definitely put that down below. I'd really appreciate it if you have that. If you're somebody who has no idea, I hope this video helped you. Like, subscribe, and yeah, we'll catch you guys on the next video.